Dude, I'm telling you, Rogue One is still the best Disney Star Wars that they have ever made. And I really just wanted to revisit this and talk about why it's still a great movie, and also because this movie exists, gives me hope, just a small hope, that they can accidentally make another great movie in the future. Alrighty, let's just go ahead and get into it. Now, I have to say this just in case nobody's watched it, when Rogue One, if you've seen this video. But most people that's Star Wars fans probably already watched it numerous times. But just in case that you're new here and you're oblivious to the Rogue One movie, in short, it is just a prequel to New Hope. How they stole the plans of the Death Star. Short and sweet to the point. Alright, so that's out of the way. Alright, so I'll give you a little background of why I wanted to revisit Rogue One. I'll be honest with you, what really motivated me is two things. One, the passing of James Earl Jones, and two, there's a lot of drama going on in Star Wars, there's always seems like drama going on in Star Wars fandom, but it really just made me look at the movies of Star Wars, and especially Disney Star Wars and the future of Star Wars. And I really just look back and it's like, well, actually the only movie that Disney made that I really liked a lot was Rogue One, and I wanted to see if it still holds up to me. When I first watched it, I absolutely loved it. And I watched it a couple times afterwards, but it's been a good 5 years since I've actually watched it again. And I want to see if it still holds up as one of the best Disney Star Wars ever made. To date, of course. So, I watched it last night, and I just wanted to give my perspective, opinion, and review of this movie again. Now, as I said earlier, if you've never watched the Star Wars, as you know, this is a prequel. And this is probably one of the... I'd never thought about this till after I watched it a second time, or third time, whatever, how long it's been, that this is actually a really good prequel. And I'll explain. With the prequel, if you, let's say, this movie did not have any legacy characters, which is great. Because if they had any legacy characters in the movie for a long period of time, those characters will survive the situation they're in because they're legacy characters, because they're in the original trilogy or the prequels or whatever, right? So these characters will survive. But going in, you're like, okay, who is these people? Because this is the thing. Let's say, spoiler, if you have never watched it, here we come. The people in Rogue One does not survive in the whole movie, and I think that's freaking amazing. And I think another cut of the script of this movie, they survive, and I'm glad they don't. I'm glad they didn't do this to this movie, because as a Star Wars fan, I was thinking, okay, if they survived, where was they during the OG or all these other times in the universe of Star Wars? And it's a really good. It actually, during the movie, you want to know, when you first watch it. To me, I was like, are they going to survive this? I thought they would, honestly. At the end, I was surprised. I was actually surprised they survived. They didn't survive. Being a Disney product, I figured, they always going to run into the sunset kind of thing, but they didn't. The sunset come to me, come to them, I should say, if you know what I mean by the scene. But that was a great prequel, I thought. And another thing, too, that I really liked about this movie is when I first watched in theaters, I have to say this, too, first thing. In passing, when you watch the talking heads on YouTube, when somebody says they like Rogue One, what do they usually say?
Oh, the only reason you like Rogue One because that Darth Vader scene.
That Darth Vader scene was good. I'll admit that. But I enjoyed the movie before that. And I'll tell you why. Because it was It still was, it felt like Star Wars, but it was a different perspective of Star Wars. It was more boots on the ground kind of thing. And I like that. There weren't no Jedi. It was just a group of people trying to take, the plans from the Death Star. And I like that. And when I first watched it, I'll admit this, the characters were throwaway characters. I was not invested into the characters. I just didn't have that investment to them. But I still love the plot. I love the story. I love the locations they had. I really enjoyed it. I liked the droid for Andor. I really liked that droid a lot. He was my favorite. But everybody else, I was not invested in their well-being, I guess. But when I watched it, now, after a couple years not watching it, I actually enjoyed their characters. I enjoyed them a lot. I would say the main character, I don't know what her name is in the movie, but I liked her a little bit more than I first did when I first watched it in theaters. I just didn't care much for her. And I'll explain this, though. And I was like, wow, I like her a little bit more than I did before I watched it last time. And I think the reason for that is we have been starved for good Star Wars content, or I wouldn't say content, good Star Wars movies for the last 5 or 6 years. That when we get a little bit of something, like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, right? And I think that's the reason I like that character now. And I'll explain why I say this. In Rogue One, the first 10 minutes, the main character is a younger kid. She's a kid. I don't know, maybe she's 10, 12. I don't know how old she is. But you see the things that she is going through or have been through. It kind of gives you a little bit of a perspective of who she is now and how that has developed to her to who she is to date. She is a little bit a chip on her shoulder, which I understand because of what she's been through. But it draws you into her character more. Okay, I'm rooting for her. I want her to succeed. And that's I never put that, I didn't put that together when I watched it the first time and a couple times afterwards. But I did this time. And I think that's the reason it still holds up, because that story is what keeps it good. I think that story of Rogue One is still it's not dated. It still has a good story and characters and all that will hold up over time. That's the whole point. If you've been on this channel longer than 5 minutes, that's all I talk about is what story sells. The story is what sells product, merchandise, box office. It sells. If you don't flush out the story, you're not going to get anything. With these characters, the story I thought was great. The characters, not so much. But I had to take another view of this movie to realize, okay, the character's not too bad. I actually liked it. But again, when I watched, Rogue One the first time, I knew they was going to make an Andor series. Now, in all fairness, I've not watched Andor, but I'm going to start watching and do a review of each episode, and you'll see it in the future. I decided to do it. I'm going to do it. Because Rogue One's the only Disney Star Wars that I actually love. So why won't I watch Andor and give my take of that series? And also, too, I think there's going to be a Andor Season 2, so I'm definitely going to check it out as well. But anywho, back to this movie. And the reason I'm talking about the lady in Rogue One is you get a perspective of who she is and what she's been through. That's the reason that's important, because we have not gotten that in any other movie that Disney has made. For example, Rey Palpatine in Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of the Palpatine. They didn't even know who she was. it was confirmed by the actress herself that was rewriting her character on the making of Rise of Palpatine during the shooting. She didn't know if she was a Kenobi. She didn't know she was a Palpatine. She didn't know, so why would they know? And that's what hurt her character. Rey was Rey. And that's the thing was, when they introduced her to Force Awakens, I was like, who is this chick? Why does she know everything? Why was she a Mary Sue out of the gate? But if they did like a little bit of a cut, or a little bit 5 minutes of who she was, then I'll be okay. I want her to succeed. I see what she's been through. I want to root for her to succeed. No, they didn't do that. But this chick on Rogue One, they did. And that's well done. You have to convince the audience why we should like these characters. Not because they are a female. Not because they're white, black, or whatever. You have to convince us. Then preach at us and say why you should like this person. That's a whole point. That's what makes and breaks a freaking IP or a story. You have to convince us why we should root for this person or hate this villain. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think is missing on Star Wars. People's like, Disney's woke or Star Wars is woke. I'm not going to go down that road anymore. I'm done talking about that kind of stuff. I will criticize the plot or the story or the characters, but I'm not going to go with the woke business. I'll say this if it has a messaging in it. But that was the time before The Last Jedi. And you can tell by watching Rogue One, it's before The Last Jedi. It still has that feel of Star Wars. It still has that, man, this is good. But I believe because it still holds up because I've been starved to death of good Star Wars since then. Because that was the last good Star Wars before Last Jedi. After Last Jedi, now of course some people are like, well, there's Mando Grogu on Disney Plus. Yeah, you're right. There will be a Mando and Grogu in theaters, whenever they said it was. And again, Rey. But in my intro, I think I said, having this movie exist gives me hope for the future of another accidentally made great Star Wars Disney movie. It's still fact. But I think with Rey movie coming out, if it goes to the theater, they have to make a good script. Because they can't hide the numbers if they do that. If it sucks, it sucks. But if they make the first Disney Plus movie, Rey, and put it on Disney Plus, they can hide the numbers all day. They don't look like a idiot. You know what I'm saying? Acolyte. Whatever your opinions are, they canceled for season 2. What does that tell you? Right? I didn't watch it. But what does that tell you? There was nothing there to watch. Right? So, with the future of Star Wars, let's say hypothetically, they're going forward to make a Rey movie in theaters. How would I make this movie? What would I do to make this movie right? Honestly, even though I would want Luke to be the person to train the new Jedi coming up. Everybody and their brother would want that instead of Rey. But it is what it is. So what I would do is I would have Rey to train the Jedi like it was supposed to. But Rey would take a backseat and I would focus my attention to the upcoming Jedi. This Jedi is a mix. It's, men, women, and all that. Because you can't have all women Jedi. Because you have to have a balance. To be fair. You know, and it makes it better. If you have an all-female Jedi, it just makes, okay, all right, I guess there's no male Jedi anymore. You know what I'm saying? You have to have a little bit of better understanding how story is. You want to cast that net to majority of the audience. And I don't want all male Jedi. A balance, okay? A balance of the Force. A balance of training these Jedi up. But anywho, I'm getting off of a rant, I apologize. But have Rey just be a background character, but focus the attention on these characters. And these characters are not Mary Sue's like Rey. These characters have struggles. You show the struggles. You show that who they was a little bit and who they are now, and you want them to succeed. And if they lost their mother or whatever, you know, the struggles that they went through, and they second guessed herself. Whatever you can do, but you have to convince us, the Star Wars fans, why we should like these characters. But if you don't do that, and you focus all in about Rey, but Rey don't do no wrong, she don't know who her parents was, yada yada yada, we're not going to be invested in her. I'm sorry. You're wasting your $40 million for her to come back, or ever how much she's getting. Now, am I going to watch a movie in Star Wars? You better believe it. I said it in the previous video. I'm going to watch any movie that Disney makes of Star Wars. I'll watch it. On Disney Plus, it's a different story because there's nothing there. In my personal opinion, it's just a passion project most of the time. Or they want to get, you know, merch for Mando. That's about it. I'll watch Andor, but that's it for now. But I will let y'all know if I'm going to watch anything else. I'm a man of my word. If I'm going to say anything, I ain't going to watch it. But if I will, I'll tell you. This is a 16-minute rant. I did not know I was going to go down this road. But you get what I'm saying. Because Rogue One exists in the world, it's still headcanon for me. Because this exists, I have hope for the future of Star Wars. I do. But I'll be honest with you, I came so close turning away from Star Wars because of The Last Jedi. I was like, I can't do it, man. I cannot do it. Star Wars has been a part of my life, all of my life. It has helped me, develop me to be the person that I am today. It's weird to say, but it has. And how I compare as a fan of Star Wars is if I was a fan of a football team. This football team, let's say whoever they are, have a bad season or numerous bad seasons, but I'm still a fan. And when that season is successful and they go to win the Super Bowl, I'll be fantastic. But of course, mark my words, when Star Wars is accidentally made a good movie, there are going to be all kinds of great videos. Oh, Star Wars is back! And I'm thinking, where was you when nothing was happening? You see what I'm saying? Of course, you'll have your naysayers. There'll always be naysayers, which is fine. It's a good balance of the Force. But people like me in the middle, I just want a good movie. I want a good story of Star Wars. I am starving for a good Star Wars movie or show. And that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for a lot. I just want a good Star Wars story. Another good Star Wars story. You see what I did there? But we'll see what happens. But I just wanted to make a quick video. Wasn't really quick. It's about almost 19 minutes. But you get what I'm saying. I really wanted to purge this out of my system and give my perspective and views of Rogue One and also the future of Star Wars. What I think it might happen and how to kind of change the narrative of what they should do with the story. If they're going to focus on Rey and the upcoming Jedi, what they should do. But if they focus on Rey and a little bit of that, it's not going to work. We already know Rey's a Mary Sue. You showed us that Rey is. Rey don't know who Rey is. Only thing we know is, oh, she's the best ever. That's all we know, and really we don't care. You have to show us, you have to convince us why we should care about any characters that you make for us to watch. And also, again, do not make any books.
Well, if you really want to know how Ray is, you gotta read this book, this book.
No, that's lazy writing. You have to put it in your movie if you want us to appreciate and love the character. That's lazy writing. That's what they did in Force Awakens. Well, if you really want to know why this character is doing this, read this book, this book, this book, this book, this book. No, I'm not going to do my homework for your lazy writing at all. Anywho, that's a lot of vent, and I do apologize for that. But this is just who I am. I love Star Wars, and I always will. That will never change. I'm a ride or die fan of Star Wars. Now, every video I make you see isn't Star Wars related. It's movies that I love. I love movies. I talk about movies. I share my perspective of movies. But as you can freaking see, I'm a Star Wars ride or die fan. If Disney does good, I will say it. If Disney does bad, I will say it. But I won't go hard in the paint like some of my colleagues do on YouTube. It's just me. I'm just who I am, and I'm just gonna be. I'll sleep good at night because I know I didn't do it for the money. I did it for me and you. Anywho, if you've lasted this long, I greatly appreciate you. But also, if you've lasted this long, if you don't mind, give me a big thumbs up. It shows me that you care. And comment below and let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I oblivious to what really matters in Star Wars? Thank you again for watching. You all have a fantastic day.